So let's talk about friendship very, very quickly because I suppose it's the easiest and the most complicated thing to talk about. Like anything else in life, when you're young, you want to fit in, you want to have some buddies with whom you can just have a good time, enjoy life a little bit. And I suppose when an event happens to you, when you're broken on the inside and you want to express what's been happening to you, first you realize it's very difficult to kind of figure things out on your own. And even when you do, to some extent, it's really a form of gossip. And then you look within your circle of acquaintances, friends, family members, relatives, and you say, okay, who am I going to pick and choose? Who am I going to share my experiences with? What's going on inside me? And then you realize that it's very, very difficult to put your emotions, your experience into language. So you kind of get disgusted by your own way of expression. Then you realize that what can your friends really do, even if they were to understand you? One of the best stories that you will ever read in your entire life, and you should do it while you're young. You can find it in the Old Testament. It's called the book of Job. Job is a relatively good man. He's good to his wife, he's good to his kids, he's good to his animals. He's an environmentalist. He takes care of his trees and plants and all that. Yes? How are you? I see, I see that. It's good to see you. Things are okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people meeting up. It's your birthday today?
Yes. I'm going to die soon.
Happy birthday.
I don't know if it's a birthday or a death day, but it's one of those days.
It's a special day.
Jess, how are your parents?
Okay.
Tell them I said hi. You live with them?
Yeah.
Okay, good. It's good to see you, man. So the book of Job is about a man who lives in a good amount of comfort. People like him. He likes himself. He likes other people. He loves God. That's what happens when your life is comfortable. You like people. People like you. You're religious. You can come on the stage like me and just talk nonsense for an hour and a half and then go home feeling good about yourself. But if you really, really want to kind of figure out, Omar, what's going on? If you really want to figure out how you're made and how tough you are, life will eventually show you, as it did to Job. Job believed himself to be a very good, decent man, a lover of God and religion and truth and honesty. But when your life is comfortable, you can claim all sorts of things about yourself. Even if you're comfortable in your anger or your disgust about things. And then, Assalamu alaikum. And then Satan goes to God and says, let's figure out what happens to people when they go through difficulties in life. Let's see if they can still have friends, have a wife, have a husband, have children, believe in God. And so Satan comes down, and the first thing that he does is destroys all the animals. Job is fine. Initially, you say to yourself, okay, so I lose a watch or someone takes my jacket, I still have my health. You're not really tested. You've lost a few things, and they're a good cause for grief and anger, but Job believes that God gives and God takes, so it's okay. And Satan goes up, and God is very happy because Job hasn't really said anything nasty about God, about religion. And Satan looks at God and says, oh, no. That's no way to test people. That's no way to figure out how they're made, how they are on the inside. Let me go down there and get rid of things that are a bit closer to him, things to which he is more attached. And so Satan comes down and butchers all the kids. But fathers are very interesting people, and I suppose I should say men. Job is sad like any other father, but, he's not completely broken, especially if you happen to be religious. God gives and God taketh away. He still talks to his wife once in a while, and maybe he reads a couple of books, maybe he goes to the synagogue and prays. He still has a relationship with God. It's a friendship, I suppose. Satan goes up, and God is very happy because Job hasn't said anything nasty about God, about religion, about life. But Satan looks at God and says, once again, you have deceived yourself. I mean, just think about it for a moment. Satan looking at God and saying to God, how could you be so self-deceptive? I'm going to show you. So Satan is in the business of educating two people, Job and God. And you thought that God is all-knowing. I think not. So Satan comes down and he gives Job, or it gives Job, a sickness. He has cancer, stage 4. And so he wakes up and he vomits and he's not feeling well. And for the first time, he comes to realize what real pain is all about. He is touched. If you lose a companion, just give it some time. You'll eventually date. If you lose a child, give it time. That's one of the things about human psychology. We have a tendency of being able to forget things. That's what time does for all of us. It's our worst enemy and our best friend. As time passes, memories begin to fade. And as memories begin to fade, things that used to be valuable no longer are. You just forget about them. Once in a while, of course, you long for them. So you put the videotape in some machine and you watch perhaps your first or second or third marriage, or first or second or third kid. But eventually, they're stored somewhere in the garage and they collect dust. But when you wake up and you can't walk, and when you wake up, you can't eat, you can't clean yourself, you realize this is a companion who's not going to go away. Every moment, this companion shoves itself in your face, telling you, I'm not going to go anywhere. You're going to die. I will take your body, and I will take your identity. I will take everything. And it's a horrifying place to be. And of course, you call your wife, and you try to tell her how you feel. She nods. Then you tell your kids how you feel. They nod, they feel sad. So when do you have friends? Only when life is good. In grief, all of us are lonely. In grief, nobody has any friends. You have to figure things out on your own. And let me explain how this works. Aristotle once remarked that there are 3 kinds of friendships. The first 2 are very much the same, really. You know, you go home and you're bored, and you say to yourself, is there anyone out there? Let me look at my contact list in my cell phone to see who can best, you know, get me out of boredom. So you have 20 people, you call them up and you say, I'm going to throw a party tonight. Can you come over? And they say, absolutely. Now that is called a friendship of pleasure. And the problem with pleasure is like going to International and 28th. You guys have ever been there, International 28th, around like midnight, where people are standing with mini skirts, right? And you look at them and say, can I have you for 5 minutes, maybe 5 hours? They say, absolutely. You say, how much? $10. Okay, I'll give you 12. Friendships of pleasure. They're cheap, they're hollow, but they do a good amount of distracting. All of us in this class need that once in a while. Unless you have lost all of your ability to just have a good time once in a while, to kind of just find yourself in the cradle of pleasure, have a nice donut, have mocha with someone, chit chat, gossip. If you have lost those abilities, I mean, you have lost some very, very important qualities of just being a basic human being. But as Freud would say, this first stage of friendship, friendship of pleasure, really is rooted in this thing called the id. Who can I be angry with? Who's going to be my companion? Who am I going to have sex with? Who am I going to smoke with? Who am I going to go to the theaters and watch a good movie with? But here's the problem with pleasure. Pleasure is like this particular kind of pleasure. It's kind of like milk. It has a very, very short shelf life. 2 weeks later, you realize you no longer want to be around this particular person. You're tired of just having casual sex. You're tired of gossiping. You're tired of just sitting and watching a movie with them. You don't want to be around them anymore. You want something else. So you sign up for a class at Laney College. And you realize that there's an assignment due next week. You look around and you try to figure out who has the friendliest face. And you wait for them after class. You say, oh, Thomas, you know, I've read a lot of books about Germany. What do you think about the Second World War? What do you think about Hitler? And you know, you say, why don't I buy you a cup of coffee? Let's go somewhere, sit and talk. And this poor Thomas, you know, assuming that you actually want to be his friend for life, or actually you're interested. What he doesn't know is that you're a con artist. What you really want is, he raises his hand every day in class, he asks good questions. And you've come to realize that perhaps the instructor of the class pays attention to Thomas and his questions and really, really likes him. To say, yes, that's the man I need to be around. He can help me with my assignment. So when you're a little more comfortable, you look at Thomas and say, so, you know, I'm sorry to diverge, but this assignment that we have for the philosophy class, when does it due? It's due tomorrow. Really? I haven't done anything. You see, now that you've made friendships with Thomas, it's very difficult for him to simply walk away. He'll be ashamed, put to shame by you. You'll make him feel bad. Should he tell you, oh, I can't really help you, I got things to do. You bought him coffee, you bought him dinner, now he owes you. And so you take him home and you show him your essay and other things, perhaps. And then the two of you sit for hours and he'll help you. And then you're still friends with him just in case, you know, the score comes back and it's an F. And the score comes back and it's an A. You go to Thomas and you say, thank you. And Thomas says, well, what are you doing tonight? You want to hang out? I have no idea who you are. You know, don't call me. Don't email me. I want nothing to do with you. And this is called friendships of utility. And here's the thing you need to know about what it means to be human. We are made. We are the sort of animals that enjoy pleasure. We need to have it. There is no escape from it. Unless you happen to be profoundly mature and reflective. Sometimes it happens with age. Sometimes it happens because you have parents who have trained you, or maybe they've exposed you to the wrong philosophies of life. So the moment you go out in society, you're just disgusted by everything you see out there. You want to be a monk. Since most of us are just basic little animals with pathetic pleasures out there that we want, we have no choice but to pursue them. And you don't just want to consume pleasure by yourself on your own, you want people to accompany you. And once the pleasure is no longer pleasurable, it actually becomes a source of pain and boredom and frustration and anxiety. Anyone who came to your aid, anyone who sat with you and watched the movie, the moment the movie expired, that friendship too is expired. The only way we can survive this life is by exploiting other people. You can do it in a mean way, you can do it in a nice way. The nice, decent, mature way is, if you've missed an assignment, you come to my office with a 3-pound bag of coffee, dark roast. You say, Amir, I really like this class, and I like the way you speak about things. By the way, I missed the assignment. Can I turn it in late? Absolutely. Thank you. Oh, by the way, here's a bag of coffee. And you create for me this illusion that you really, really like me, that you're like a novice philosopher. You're going to go to Yale or Stanford, and you're going to pursue philosophy, get your PhD, and go out there and talk philosophically. And then, of course, yes?
Go back to the pleasure.
You just had yours. And you're relieved now.
Getting this.
See? You think about the bathroom? Not anymore. It's finished. Now, so friendship of utility. You come to my office, you use me, I give you a C or a B or an A, then I run into you somewhere around the lake, and I say, hi, and you say, who are you? Well, damn, I was your philosophy instructor for about 16 weeks. If I ever see you around here, I'm going to kick your ass. You say, okay, see you around. Now that you have gotten what you needed, I'm no longer relevant. Now remember, as animals that we are, you need to exploit people. There is nothing wrong with it. Just be nice in the way you want to exploit them, yes?
There's this two guys, old school. They were friendships, utility friendships of pleasure. Because both of them made a pair. I talked to a girl, they said that pair was very like attractive.
Okay, yeah? Good, yeah.
If we give you coffee, it won't be like a 25 points. Because
You just don't worry about it. Just bring me the coffee. I'll take care of the rest. Yeah,
Would I be able to bring cash or something?
absolutely. The more the better. Bags full.
I don't know about bags. I'll make sure you
How about envelope full? Envelope? Good job. All right. You guys didn't hear that. Now, there is another kind of friendship. It's called friendship of utility. Friendship of nobility. And there is a special word that the Greeks have for this. It's called philautia. It's someone who wants to teach you a few things about who you are, what you are. Not so much as a body, but your emotions, your intellect, and if you have a soul or a spirit inside you, how your spirit works. The problem with this kind of friendship is it's quite rare and it's very demanding. Imagine, for example, you came to my office and you said, Amir, I want to figure out who I am. Well, you're 20, I'm 60. I have a good amount of time behind me, a little bit of time ahead of me. I wake up tired like Ray. I live out the day tired, and I go to sleep tired, and then I wake up tired. As I age, like Ray, or maybe unlike Ray, I'm becoming a bit more grouchy. My disgust for people grows, my disgust for myself grows, and my disgust for life grows. And the more I realize or study the nature of teaching and learning, I realize how nearly impossible it is to teach anyone anything. So remember, you have three kinds of friendships: pleasure, utility, and someone who wants to teach you about your past and how your past impacts you, and perhaps how they can free you from your past and eventually inject inside you a soul. All that aside, there is this other part that you need to know. In grief, you're always going to be alone. Always. And since human beings have no choice but to once in a while be brutalized by life, it means that life is going to corner you. You're going to sit somewhere, you want to talk to someone, there is no one to talk to. There is nothing to talk about. You're all alone. You have to figure things out by yourself. I'll tell you a story, then we'll move on to rationality, which is really connected to grief in some ways. About, I don't know, 40 years ago, this is, I think, before I met Abi. I was sitting in my room, having some food, and then I get a call from a friend of mine, and he says to me, you need to come to my house ASAP. I say, what is it? My son died. Well, he was playing basketball. His father went to pick him up, and they were driving home to have some food, and he says to his dad, can we go have pizza instead of mom's food? Sure. And so he makes a U, they're driving towards Round Table, and in the car, he just has a heart attack and dies. By the time he gets to the hospital, it's finished. And so in the Persian culture, you need about 5 people to go to the mortuary to wash the body. So there are 5 of us, 5 buckets of scented water, 5 sponges, and we begin to wash this body of a 17-year-old. The mortuary inside, you have about, 5, 10, 15, 20 white plastic beds. And you need plastic beds because that's where you need to wash the body. And we were the only ones, in that space. And it's a 5-hour, 6-hour ordeal. And so we wash the body, and then the body is carried to the grave. And there is the mother just screaming and wailing. And there is the father, very stoically. He's leaning against a tree, his arms folded. He doesn't show much emotions. And the mother went through depression for, I guess, a number of years. And because her son has a relatively common name in the Persian culture, every time that name is spoken when we all gather, something happens to her facial expression. She kind of retreats, becomes introverted. So, if you want to know what happens when something awful happens to you where you find yourself at a loss, that there is no one on this planet who can come to your aid, you need to understand what is going through inside you. Grief is about loss. The more intense the grief, it means the more attached you were to the object or to the thing that you no longer have. Which means the more attached, the more intense the emotions. See, if you hadn't, for example, if you failed the first assignment, you don't really care for this class, all you want to do is pass this class. You raise your hand and you say, I'm having some trouble with the second assignment. How can I write in a way to pass it? You're agitated, you're frustrated, you're fearful, but you're not going to sit in your room and cry. I'm not talking about a grief about something casual like losing a grade or losing a bike. Right? Something you're very, very close to, like a brother or a sister or a parent, or maybe even your health. The first thing that happens should you suffer a very, very serious loss. I had about, 3, 4, 5 years ago, I had this student. Well, I've known him for a while, but then all of a sudden he disappeared. He had these parents, they loved him. In fact, him and his father built a car with one another. And so this young man just all of a sudden disappeared. When you're a parent, your life as you know it, the moment you become a parent, your life as you know it comes to an end. You really want to safeguard your kids. You give them your time, you give them your energy, you give them your passion. You just want to make sure nothing bad happens to them. So the first thing that happens is that the father comes to my office and he says to me, have you seen him? I say, no. He liked you, he was very close to you, he enjoyed the conversations you guys had in the class. Do you know where he is? I love my son. Yeah, he's a great guy. He used to come and sit in my classes all the time. He sheds a few tears and leaves my office. A few weeks later, his mother comes. They still don't know where he is. And she just sits and cries. She doesn't know what's happening. And the point I'm trying to make, the parents have suffered a loss. This grief is rooted in their love for their child. You can't get this at Costco. You can't just create this overnight. It has taken them 18 years to fall in love with this kid. It happens at the moment of birth, but you keep injecting stuff into this relationship until it's a fully blossomed flower of love. Then it gets destroyed. You wake up as a father, as a mother, you knock on your son's door, there is no answer. The first thing that happens, you go into the denial mode. No, he isn't lost. No, he'll come back. He hasn't completely disappeared. Something intuitively inside tells you he's gone. He's not coming back anytime soon. But you see, as parents, as anyone who has suffered loss, you hear your father has done something, you say, no, my father couldn't have. So the first thing that you do is you deny. Why? Because the news, because the truth weighs heavily on you. It's too much. I'm old. He's old. And despite being in the cradle of old age, it's very, very difficult to grasp the enormity of it. We have no choice but to deny it. No, I still have time. Right? So you deny. And you need to. It's natural. It's too much. For those of you who have missed the first two assignments, you think that you still have time to make them up. As the weeks go by, the assignments, the number of them increase. The load gets heavier and heavier. You can deny all you want, but the truth is going to come your way in about 5 or 6 or 7 weeks. It's going to be the last day of this class and you haven't done anything. So remember, all of us in this class deny for good reasons. Something about the foundation has cracked and you know it. What can you do though? Nothing. You stick your head in the ground and pretend as if it doesn't exist.